In a previous video, I talked about being weaker in whatever range of motion that you don't train in. For back training, this can apply in a number of ways because some people don't even properly train their back in the first place. Today, I'm going to go over 3 ways that you can ensure that you're getting the most out of your back training. So let me start with the importance of back training. The 2 biggest, broadest functions of the body when we lift is pushing and pulling. Now, I understand that all the pushing is more appealing because it works the muscles on the front of the body that you can see. So a chest pump and a shoulder pump, it's going to be a lot more appealing than the impossible to achieve back pump. So I'm going to cater to the gym bro audience for a second here and say that you got to think about it from different angles. The people looking at you that you can't see are looking at you from the back, and it would do you some good to have a nice developed tapered back. Now for the actual functional reasoning for why back training is important, you need to make sure that you balance your push training with your pull training, or else you're going to develop some serious muscle imbalances down the road. Not to mention, if you don't train back, you should definitely say goodbye to training legs, because not training back and not developing those important stabilizers is going to really increase your risk for injury. And back to the imbalance, being front heavy and only doing push exercises will drastically increase your risk for shoulder impingement or some other injury of the sorts. So for starters, let's make sure that you're actually properly engaging your back. It's simple enough to say that a back exercise is just grabbing something and pulling it, but how you pull it can determine how well you effectively hit your back. If you grab something and you just pull it using your wrist and your arm, you're going to work the arm and probably the front deltoid, which is a little counterproductive given what we just discussed. What you want to do is learn how to drive the elbows behind you and retract the scapula and get a proper squeeze and peak contraction of the lats. Now, it's easy enough to just say retract the scapula and pull the elbows back behind you, but believe it or not, some people still let their shoulders pop up a little too much. And this takes away the activation of the back in the movement. Or while maybe it feels like the back is working, it can work a heck of a lot more. So if you haven't tried out this cue yet, I would say every time you're going for that peak contraction, try to lift up your sternum a little further. This will get your shoulders down, it'll get the elbows down, and it'll get them further back behind you, especially if you keep the elbows nice and flush. Taking it to the next step, you want to make sure that you're getting a peak contraction every time you do an exercise. You don't want to be one of those guys that does 3 sets of 12 and finishes each set in 12 seconds. The muscles aren't going to recognize weight or how fast you do the movement. They're going to recognize tension. So if you maximize tension and increase time under tension, the math really adds up, doesn't it? You're just going to get better results all around. So as you learn to really drive the elbows back and retract your scapula and find that peak contraction, your goal should be make each contraction almost more painful than the last. As you do this, the primary muscles of the exercise, the biggest ones, such as the lats, are going to start to fatigue. So in order to keep doing this motion, the smaller supporting muscles have to jump in. And this is how a muscle gets fully developed. You're going to have more of the right muscles being recruited for this movement, which means that in the future, your activation and strength on this movement will be much greater, and the risk of injury or lack of stabilization will decrease. Finishing up, we're going back to the idea that you should train in all ranges of motion in order to maximize your strength and development. For this one, we're going to go over to the lat pull-down machine, and we're going to train what's called the eccentric. Those of you who have watched my videos before or just know exercise, then you probably know what an eccentric is. For the new people, the eccentric is basically the lowering portion of the weight. It means that after you get a peak contraction where you've shortened your muscles the most you can, training the eccentric with tension under control would be lowering it as slowly as you can, or just in a controlled fashion. In this case, we're focusing on lowering it as slowly as you can. This is where the most damage is done in the muscles, because you're stretching the muscle under tension. And for this exercise in particular, for the lat pull down, it's easy for the shoulders to try to jump in during the eccentric. So the challenge here is to not let that happen. Not only are you training an eccentric, you're training it under as much control as you can, and you're trying to keep the scapula retracted and the chest lifted up. And this will keep the whole focus on the lats the whole time. And of course, just like we talked about in getting peak contractions each time, more and more of those small stabilizing muscles are going to jump in. And for the function of this movement in particular, which is vertical pulling, there will be a few different muscles that jump in than horizontal pulling. For instance, parts of the rotator cuff and right in the middle of your traps, which is a very stubborn part of the body to hit in the first place. Those muscles will actually get a little bit of activation on this motion. But it is important to slow things down and fight through the tension, because it is the increased time under tension that makes this movement effective in the first place. And the more movements and more styles of training that you train in effectively will therefore increase the effectiveness of all these motions exponentially going forward. And this will be extremely beneficial to the development of your back. That'll do it for this video. Hope you guys learned something here today. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and make sure to subscribe as well. I enjoy making these videos and I have a lot more coming out in the future. If you have any specific videos that you want to see, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. I've gotten a few comments with suggestions of what I should do. And just because I haven't done them yet doesn't mean I won't. I've just had a few projects that I was working on already. But as I start to finish up more and more of them, I will find more time to get to your requests and bring you more of the content that you're looking for. So again, thank you guys so much for watching and for all of your support. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.